this specific line item.
100%.
That's what I would like to see happen. And Sherry, I know you want to add something, but.
Sherry, would you add on?
Yes, please, thank you. Well, not to make this meeting go too much longer, but right now with the levy, the current levy, and the expenses we have, and the revenue, there would be $100,000 that we could put in the economic development line, leave that 140,000. I think I mentioned it to a few of you, I would like to see that actually put in investments for VITA or EDA, and because the interest rates are still fairly good, and invest it and make some money and have it as your little, starter, little seed money there.
So that,
Just
so
my
what you're
opinion.
saying, sorry, Mayor.
Oh, please, thank you.
Thank you. So what you're saying though is that then you would put 100,000 in where there's zero in that line item?
Right.
And where would that come from?
That's what we have left over with the current levy. That's what would be left.
So of using that money for
Okay.
economic
Leave it
development
alone.
Okay.
as a line item for VEDA.
Okay, so I'm comfortable with whatever that recommendation is. I just think it's wonderful that we have that small windfall. And it's a great opportunity to be able to either A, invest it for the future, or B, do this transfer, or whatever that looks like. So if it has to go through the VITA process, I'm comfortable with that, but I think that would be my intention, to utilize that. And then just to follow up on that, come summer of 2025, can I say it? We can talk about summer of 2025, we can talk about, VEDA joint can talk about the sale of 1402, and that actually is unencumbered. So any proceeds from that sale, if the sale occurred in 2025, would also be split between both cities, or both EDAs, basically.
Right.
And then would be a secondary profit or revenue for each of the cities in progress, that are joint with Progress Parkway. So I just wanted to give that update. That's a positive. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. So that's number 4 on the list to talk about at the next budget meeting. Councilor Bionis, please continue.
Thank you. And this is just a really quick question. Back when the school, the property that the city, we sold it for 50,000. Did the 25 and the 25 get allocated to where Councilor Johnson, if you remember that conversation?
I would
think
have to go back,
25
but
is
it
to-
was a motion.
It did. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions there before we go on to the next item? We've got about 9 minutes, but we can start the committee whole later. We're going to take a break before we start. So anything else before we move on to the next item on the agenda? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize for bringing one more item up, but would it be possible, I feel like the school just approved was it on Monday, their levy, I think it was at 1.6%, but they had a negative debt levy. So the overall tax impact of ISD 2909 would have been 1.9 negative, which is awesome for property taxes for all communities that pay those to the school or to the county on behalf of the school. But my question is, on that spreadsheet that we get sent by, is it Brandon? Is that reflected in there? And if it isn't, could that be reflected in there and we get a new copy of that so we can plug in the overall numbers of where we might be landing to see the net overall property tax effect moving forward? That would be awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Sherry?
Just one more thing, also too, on the front page here of our budget, you'll see the general fund levy is at 8%, but we do have a negative debt levy, which reduces the overall levy to 5.5. It's pretty good.
Well, things are looking up, so thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, anything else you want to disseminate to the council we have 4 items to take a look at, which you have a list of, and we'll discuss those and try to vet those out for the next budget meeting. But before we close the special budget meeting today, does any other questions or comments from the council? Any questions or comments from staff? Okay, motion to adjourn, somebody, we're good? We stand adjourned at 8:55 a.m. We'll take a quick break, and then we have some internet issues and then to resolve. And so we'll begin our committee holding close to 9 o'clock. So please, thanks for your patience. We stand adjourned of our special meeting, and we'll follow up with the committee hold meeting shortly. Thank you. We stand adjourned. Okay, is everybody ready? We'll get started here. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council chambers. We just finished the next of many budget meetings to come before December. So this is the regularly scheduled committee of the whole meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. The time is 9 a.m. We have a very full agenda today. We have some presentations today and some exciting news about some progress being made within the city, primarily with respect to the public safety building. So we'll turn this portion of our, sorry, Pam. I should have been more observant there. So we called the meeting to order at 9 o'clock today's date, and letting everybody know that we're going to get started here. So I'll give you a couple minutes to bring that forward, and then we'll turn the committee of the whole meeting over to our city administrator, Britzy Bennis. Good. Britt?
Thank you. First item on the agenda is Sean Lewis, and we have John McNamara here to discuss our Public Safety Center.
Sean Lewis from Cross Anderson, welcome. John McNamara, the architectural design of this fantastic facility. Welcome. Thanks for coming up. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and staff. Again, my name is Sean Lewis. I'm a senior project manager for Cross Anderson, managing the new public safety facility. And as mentioned, John is here with Wold Architects as well. So we have a short and sweet update today. We are within budget, and we are on schedule. And we have some changes to discuss today that are mostly telling the story of more savings and some other ways we found to cut some costs on the project in some creative ways and also deliver an excellent product at the end of the day. And this picture here is what's going to be the new main entry. So precast concrete is moving right along very nicely. And again, we're still on track to have the shell of our building pretty much ready to go by the end of this month, October. We also have a few more fun pictures showing precast concrete walls being installed with the crane here. And I'm sure everybody's eagerly awaiting an update on 2nd Avenue. So the 2nd Avenue utility work was done a couple weeks back. The concrete paving has been replaced since. That was finished last week. And the curb and gutter is being done today. For the safety of the crews, we kept it closed yesterday and today so we could get the curb and gutter done, which would be on the left side of this photo on the screen. And then also, we also have some cure time. So concrete's placed in a soft form, and then it takes a few days to cure. We use what's called a high-early mix, which allows the concrete to cure quickly, especially in road application like this, where we want vehicles to be able to drive on it without any problems, and concrete's to strength, and we want it to be strong enough. Our first test was not quite to the strength that we would like to see it before we allow vehicles, so we've got another test tomorrow. So if that goes well, then we should have 2nd Avenue open tomorrow, or hopefully Thursday at the latest. Yes.
Thank you, Sean. If we just pause for a moment, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. A question about this winter. I know when I've done concrete work at home, they prefer you don't put salt and chemicals on it the first year. Is that something we should be aware of for this concrete over the first winter of during construction and such?
Certainly, if you can avoid adding salt or a lot of salt, that would be a really good idea, especially the first year.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Mr. Lewis, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also on site, our utilities and earthwork contractor has continued to proceed forward. My slides take about 10 seconds to scroll through here, but you'll see some pictures of some underground utilities being installed, working on water mains, sanitary sewer, storm sewer. So we've made really good progress on this work and should have a lot of this done hopefully before Mr. Winter, Old Man Winter arrives this year. So far so good on that. Also threw in kind of a fun picture here, an overhead picture from last week of the job site that one of a pilot that we know just happened to be flying over, snapped the picture. I thought it'd be fun to throw that in here. So far, so good. It's coming together. The update on contaminated soils, as discussed at the previous meeting, we recommended proceeding with remediation of some contaminated soils that were found at the southwest corner of the job, up to $40,000. We're working through that, and I'll have some more information to report back on that in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Could we just pause for a moment again?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lewis, thank you. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sean. I just, on the last slide, and you don't have to go back since it takes a few minutes, but on the east side of that, on the building.
Yes.
And there's that, I don't know, is it an alley back there? Do we have plans? Did we make plans for what's going to happen? Are the trucks coming in and out of there, or is
They
that
are
going to be a
for
thoroughfare
a part of it, yes. Yeah, be the south part of it.
on the south part? So they'll be able to head east and then south and then get to Second Avenue?
Talking about the apparatus?
Well, I'm just talking in general. Is that going to be a thoroughfare? I would call it behind the building. So it just stops?
What, you mean for regular car traffic or
Sure.
regular access?
Go ahead.
Regular
If I go-
access.
If I go back to the original site plan, we're closing off the north side of the site with a fence and a gate, which will go all the way over to the property line and drop south to the current alleyway where the job site trailer is. And that's the secondary access point out of the secured parking area.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara. Mr. Lewis?
Okay. And again, a quick overall budget update. And like we showed at the last meeting and by request, and I thought it was a really good idea as well, we have a contingency and change order log that we're keeping up. So this, hopefully it's not too small up on the screen. As we go, I'll start kind of showing just the more recent ones so that it's a little better to view. But you can see the current pending amount of the ones we'll discuss next in the next couple of slides, and we've had the previous approval. So the important number to share is we still have $854,000 of contingency money to work with to help pay for the change orders that we discussed going forward. So we're in really good shape.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Questions? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Change orders for recommendation this morning. I will go through these in an overview, and then I have a next slide to tell the story of the savings and the ways we've cut costs for landscaping, because there's a little bit of a story to that I want to share that's actually a big win. Most of these are also savings. And there's a lot of numbers here, so bear with me, but what we're referring to as change order request, or COR number 10, is for during the shop drying process, we realized we were able to omit one of the precast concrete columns, and we were able to save $4,540 there. Change order request number 11, we were able to reduce some of the sealant where the precast concrete walls come together. There's a joint there that gets sealant. We were able to reduce some of the sealant there and still provide waterproofing on the building and a good quality product. But by doing that, we were able to save $30,093. The landscaping one, I will share some more information on that in the next slide.
So if I may, just as you move forward.
Yes.
This change, this says is related to B3 compliance? This one?
The landscaping, partially, yes.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Yes, and it's a great question, too. I'll come back to that if that's okay,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor. Yeah. Change order request number 13 is for some door hardware changes that we had on the project. There's a combination of, this is pretty normal during the process of a relatively larger building where we're going through all the door schedules and we're rechecking everything when we've got all of the contractors' teams on, the door supplier on board. We go through it again with the staff and also the city's security vendor. And we found a few things that needed to be changed. There were some debits and some credits, and we ended up with only $13,537. That will increase the construction budget on that change order request number 13. And a lot of that has to do with access control and making sure we have card readers in the right locations and things like that. Also on the roofing one, there's a short story to tell here. The original plan for the roofing system was called a fully adhered roofing membrane system, where we actually adhere the membrane to the roof. We recognize that would have worked with the original plan and schedule because we probably would have been doing roofing during warmer weather. That system's difficult or almost impossible to do and meet the quality requirements when we get into November and December. So we were trying to find some other ways to do a roofing system. We can do an application like this for roofing in colder weather. So we found what's called like a hot mop application. That also adheres the membrane. And again, reviewing that together with Wold Architects and the roofing subcontractor and the manufacturer, meets the manufacturer warranty requirements. And it works real well. And we also were able to save another $24,039 in addition to that. So we were able to have two big wins on that one. On the landscaping change order request number 12, like I said, there's a story to tell here of cutting costs on the project. If you remember back, it was probably a frustrating day for some people back last fall when bids were opened on the project and the budget, we were way over budget. The landscaping, I've got up on the screen, the 4 bids we received for landscaping. The highest was $775,000 just for landscaping bid alone. The apparent low bidder was the $625,800 on bid day. That's Bloomers, subsequently the subcontractor that we've engaged for the project. And we then started in on value engineering for the project as a whole, including this landscaping scope specifically. By the time we arrived at June of 2024, we had the landscaping cost estimates down to $442,600. We weren't quite happy with that at that point. Pardon me, let me take one step back. When we established the construction budget, we had to pick a target for landscaping because we had a lot of these are some value engineering gears that were still in motion, like we shared back in March and April. We set the target or an allowance for landscaping, or in other words, a target for that budget line of $265,974. So by June, we'd got it to $442,600, and we still weren't quite happy with that. We knew we could do a little bit better. So then we went to back to work, and that included omitting the irrigation system. And just also to point out, during this process, last year and even into this year and further value engineering, the city staff was engaged on this and definitely got their buy-in and them to weigh in and their input, especially when we're talking about omitting irrigation system. And given recent experience on the MEC and also the option to save a lot of money, that was part of something that we did after June. So right now, the cost or the price of landscaping, we're at $350,100 right now. So we've nearly cut it in half from when we started last fall. So it's a very good story of some cost savings in reducing costs on the project. So back to when we established the construction budget, we set a landscaping allowance number of $265,974. So that's the difference I have up on the screen to help follow along on the math of $88,145.81. That includes our fee and some markups and things in there. That's why it doesn't exactly add up there. So that's the change order request number 12, is to increase that landscaping allowance budget line $88,000. So hopefully that helps explain the story, because there's actually a year. There's a year worth of story there, really. Yeah.
Okay. Question, once, Mr. Lewis, Councilor Bionich.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So you removed the irrigation for the landscape.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian's not here. Brett, do we have irrigation for any other city property? And where would that be?
The golf course and the Iron Trail Motors Event Center.
Okay, all right. So with this landscape project, how is it going to look? Or the maintenance of it, I guess, without having that?
Yes, that's an excellent question, and something that we made sure that the city's maintenance staff was fully aware that by removing irrigation, then there would be a requirement that regular watering would need to be done. I will say the landscaping will look amazing on this project. And it did, like we've talked about even way back to March, one of the first meetings I was here. This meets the minimum requirements. We've kind of whittled this down or pruned it down to the minimum requirements. It will still look very nice because B3 requirements, including water, basically rainwater shedding requirements for the project require a lot of landscaping, clearly. So the landscape part, and to continue to answer your question, the landscape subcontract has some value in here for watering initially during establishment to help the plants and lawn establish. But then eventually the city maintenance staff will need to take over that part, likely not next year, but the following year of '26. They'd have to start taking on watering things manually on site. Yeah, but based on some feedback, that versus the maintenance of an irrigation system from recent experience, we were hearing some feedback that, yeah, the maintenance of the irrigation system is enough there where we're okay with manually watering on the new public safety facility.
And is there a warranty or a time frame that they will come back to fix things if the plants don't survive?
Yep, 1 year.
1 year? Thank you.
Yep, which will yes, that's a good question, Counselor. And likely it'll be 1 year from July or August next summer, somewhere in there. Yeah,
1 year after we accept the,
correct.
right, thank you.
Yes, pardon me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for clarifying that. It's 1 year after the landscaping scope is accepted it'd be by KA and Wold Architects and the design partners we have. Yeah.
Thank you. One more question, Mr. Lewis, from Counselor Johnson.
If I remember correctly, part of the reason we got rid of the irrigation is because we have a lot of hoses and they need to do some water practice stuff and they can do that right on site. So the tools are there to water a large area, and that did get brought up just because they do that. They go over to Parkview and do some water training stuff, and that kind of stuff can happen more centralized. So it's kind of a win-win.
Correct, yeah. And we saved quite a bit of money also doing it that way too, so that was a big part of this. So that brings us to a total today of change order request of $43,010.94.
Okay, thank you. Any more information you will be disseminating on the change order requests?
No, sir.
Okay, so we could take those right now,
That would be just fine.
one
yeah.
by one.
Yep.
Okay,
I will move change order 10 to omit the precast column.
Support.
moved by Counselor Johnson to approve change order precast column in deduct of $4,540, seconded by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
I will move change order 11 for sealant at reductions, $30,093.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve change order number 11 regarding precast sealant in the deduct of $30,093. Is there support? By Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
I will move change order 12 for an increase of the landscaping allowance of $88,145.81.
Moved by Counselor Johnson to approve change order request for landscaping allowance of an increase of $88,145.81. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
I will move change order 13, hardware changes $13,537.13.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve change order number 13 for hardware changes, increase in the amount of $13,537.13. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
And finally, I will move change order 14 for the roofing system for a deduct of $24,039.
Okay, moved by Counselor Johnson to approve change order number 14 regarding the RPR 22 roofing system change contract deduct of $24,039. Is there support? By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other questions at all?
Okay, any other questions for Sean Lewis from Kraus Anderson? Please, Councilor Beyondich.
My pleasure. You're welcome.
Yeah, and once again, yeah, thank you, Mr. Lewis, for coming in, and for Mr. McNamara for making the trip up from the metro area to accomplish this goals and objectives that we have. I just want to say that you've been very accessible, Kraus Anderson. The construction manager, Rick, has always been, particularly on our interim wage event center. Now this as well, where we're getting regular updates as requested by staff and council. It's very, very helpful. And when I visit the site and I get a chance to speak to some of your crew members there and Mr. Gary Francisco and all this, I think the work that you're doing is outstanding. You're trying to maintain the budget moving forward, and it's a very difficult task in a $38 $2 million project, so thank you for that. Mr. McNamara, thank you. Mr. Lewis, thank you. Any other questions for the construction team for the public safety building? Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, have a good rest of your day.
You do the same. Thank you. Britt?
Thank you. The second item on the agenda is a request from the Virginia Fire Department is to approve an agreement for professional billing services with ECP Services LLC.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Or
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? You have anything you want to give us, Eric? We're good to go? Very good. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? I think we may have one. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just having a little tough time, and I don't know, maybe it is in here. What is the overall cost, the fee for this?
Overall fee is 3% of collection. So I believe it's about 0.5% higher than EMSMC right now. But projections that ECP gave us is we will collect more than EMSMC is collecting for us currently. So it'll be, in theory, a net positive for our special revenue fund.
So I'm still not seeing that oh, here it is. It's 3 1/2, so it's 3.5% of net income deposited.
Yep. So that'll put it, I believe, 1% higher than EMSMC, but
So they were at 2.5?
so.
And then it says in the contract that it would renew automatically every year. Does that 3.5% stay as each year renews, or does that increase and then we're stuck with that as we're agreeing to a contract to renew
To
annually?
my knowledge, that 3.5 is set unless it's renegotiated, and then which time we would have to physically re-sign it.
Okay, so then if
same as
that
if-
would increase, it would come back to us for discussion or whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion or questions for Assistant Chief Jonason? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is from the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting held on September 24th, 2024. I think actually it was Street and Alley, not Buildings and Grounds. Sorry about that. The Street and Alley meeting held on September 24th, 2024. And the first item was approve option 2 from MnDOT for the change to intersection Trunk Highway 53, 9th Street North. And I'll ask Matt Reed to come up and discuss a little bit with the council, as he did with the Street and Alley Committee, what this means.
Thank you, Britt. Matt Reed, SCH, our engineer of record. Good morning once again.
Good morning. So in your packet, there are a few schematic drawings that were provided to us by MnDOT. So I think we've talked before, they are planning on doing some improvements to the intersection of 9th Street and Highway 53. And the west leg going into Parkville is actually going to be eliminated, so that's going to become a three-way intersection at some point. I want to say they told us 27, 28. It's a couple of years out yet still. They're still in the planning stages. But we are also in the process of working through, as you might recall, getting that small section of 9th Street from Hoover Road to Highway 53 as a turn back to the city. So what MnDOT is trying to do is get it the way we want it, so that when they turn it back to us, it's the way that the city of Virginia would like it to be. So they presented us with a couple of different options, primarily in the way that the lanes are striped. And that's what, if you look at the two colored photos, forget about the aerial photo, that's more of an overview, but if you look at the two yellow highlighted schematic drawings, that'll show you the two general striping layouts that they're looking at doing. So to be clear, they are not going to narrow the road at all. So the actual paved width of the road is going to remain the same. So there is some flexibility for us. Once we get it back, if we don't like the way it turns out, we can always restripe it and change some things. It's going to be plenty wide. There will not be a concrete median in there like there is today. And that off-ramp, if you want to call it that, heading northbound, coming in, will be gone as well. So it'll actually become a much safer intersection. So it'll be a signalized three-leg intersection. So what they're asking us about, and to me, it's a pretty easy decision, but others may have different opinions. The striping, if you look at the first one, so it's the very first yellow highlighted one in your packet, if you look closely and look at the traffic heading towards Highway 53 on 9th Street, so westbound, we're coming through the intersection of Hoover Road, coming straight through, and then it branches off into a dedicated right turn and a dedicated left turn. I wish I had a bigger printout to show you. Counselor Friedlieb, looks like did you find the one that okay. So the other option would be if we wanted to do some other creative striping and how we do it. But to cut to the chase, my recommendation is to take the first one. And so at Hoover Road, as you're going west towards Highway 53, it'll stay the same way it is today. There'll be a dedicated left turn onto Hoover Road and a dedicated right and through going through to Highway 53. Once you get through that intersection, it'll then branch into two lanes, dedicated right, dedicated left. Okay, because there won't be a cross anymore. Eastbound, heading off of 53, coming back towards Hoover Road, that would just remain they'll come in on one lane, and once they get turned in, that'll branch into a dedicated right turn onto Hoover Road and a dedicated through lane. So from a traffic flow perspective, that easily makes the most sense to me. And that's what I would recommend to you. I can certainly discuss any other options. This is the option that I will work through with MnDOT based on kind of some conversations we had. And then, of course, that you kind of see that black median, if you will, that'll be painted. That won't be a raised median, so that'll just be striping. So I think traffic would flow the best that way. That's my recommendation to you. I'll back away and let you guys ask me questions or give me other suggestions that you might want to see.
And as part of the street and alley meeting with Counselor Freely being the chair and Counselor Motley and I being members, we discussed it at length. Option 2 seems the most important. The only question that was raised there was, can a large semi-tractor trailer make that turn moving forward? And it appears as though that's going to be the case. It does make the most sense. So there was some significant vetting of that. So thank you for that, Matt. Questions, Counselor Johnson?
So I'm a visual person, so I'm going to ask you this visually as I'm doing this. So the difference truly is about halfway between Highway 53 and Hoover Road. The one you're suggesting, you would go straight and automatically go to the south as opposed to the dotted turn to the right. The other one makes it want to go straight and to the right as opposed to changing lanes to turn left. And you're recommending the one where the default would be to go straight and take the left to South 53.
I'm recommending the one with the dotted lines.
Yep, the one with the dotted lines. Okay, thank you. I
That's an
appreciate
easier way
that.
to describe it. Good, that's a good differentiator. Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Any other questions, comments from the council? Staff has already vetted this out, so the request at this committee home meeting is to approve option 2.
I'll move to approve option 2 on recommendation of our engineer on record. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and that'll be a discussion with MnDOT with our engineering department. So motion to approve option 2 is recommended by Street and Alley and is discussed here at the council meeting to change the intersection of Trunk Highway 53 and 9th Street North. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
I apologize because now I'm confused as to which one, because option 2 is the one, do you want the one with the dots or without the dots, Matt? Which is the better one?
Page 53.
Page 53.
It was referenced in the street and alley meeting, it was referenced as option 2. It's in a different order here than it was. So the one on page 50, let me make sure. The one on page 53 of your packet is the one I'm recommending,
Okay, that
which was
helps.
referred to as option 2 in the street and alley committee meeting. Sorry for the confusion.
All right, so page 53, which is or option 2. All right, thank you for that clarification.
That's my fault. I couldn't remember which one.
Oh,
we were
it's-
picking,
it-
so I just put them in there.
Well, we have the great option now, so.
Yeah.
It's been moved and, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
The next item was, we had a request from a couple of citizens to discuss the Marquette school zone signage, to remove it, and to also look at putting additional school zones around Parkview, North Star, and James Madison. So we had Matt drop a little schematic of what it would look like if we were to designate those as school zones. We did point out in the meeting, and Gary or Liz or Mayor, please jump in if you'd want, that the difference is that the other 3 schools, the new Marquette does not have a stop sign at the intersection where you enter, either intersection where you enter. The other schools all have controlled intersections by either a traffic light or by stop signs all the way around. That is the difference why traffic is being slowed down in those places and not on West Chestnut. So, Matt, if you have anything else you want to add, or if you want to.
No.
And just to clarify, that school zone is only in effect, the sign is there when flashing.
Yes, that speed
15
limit is.
mile an hour when flashing,
correct.
not 24/7, when flashing. So the citizen that was concerned utilized that street before and after school hours, so when flashing. So that was the recommendation. There was a, thank you for putting that big thing together about what it could look like, but based upon, the logistics, this was a recommendation from Street and Alley, and I would refer to the chair of Street and Alley, Councilor Friedlieb, if you have any more questions or comments with respect to this. Okay, thank you. So the recommendation is to leave the school zone signage in the speed limit at 15 miles an hour and hold all the other recommendations for elementary in abeyance at this time. Moved by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Johnson or Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I drove that before I went on vacation and did notice all what was talked about. And when I've had those questions, that's exactly what I've said. All the schools around here have crosswalks, they have guards, they have all that stuff. So that you need to slow down to 15 miles an hour twice a day for a half hour. Take the other route. It'll be quicker if it's that big of a deal. So thank you for your work on this, and I appreciate the conclusion.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
On the next item that was at the meeting was the information regarding the placement of a new sanitary sewer main along 6th Avenue, or adjacent to 6th Avenue, to 4th Street North at the lift station for the Lakeview Place, I believe is the name of the building.
So we've been having some significant issues there.
Have
Matt?
been numerous, yes.
Yeah, they've had some issues they've brought forward to us. It's actually a couple of different things going on there. One, their current service line goes into the city main that actually runs to the east towards Bailey Lake and into the main that's behind the hotel. So the main actually runs underneath the hotel, which is whatever, I guess, but it's shallow and it runs underneath the hotel. Additionally, there's a steam line through there. Pros and cons, it keeps things thawed out, but unfortunately, they had an issue recently where it actually melted the steam backed up into their building, and the heat of the steam actually melted their pipes behind the wall. It bowed some pipe. It was actually kind of an interesting thing to see. I feel bad for them, of course, but it was interesting to see the photos from that. So trying to mitigate both issues for them, well, one of the things where I think Jim and I at Rossfit, Jim's not here, what we had talked about doing was putting a vented lid on the sanitary manhole, so at least if the steam does back up in there, it has a place to vent out. That's not an ideal situation, because obviously a vented lid is gonna contradict the whole let's prevent I&I, because what can go out can come in, but short term, it's probably the best thing to do at this point, because it would be to have that happen to them again inside their business that was not a good thing. And the steam will be shut down at some point in the not too distant future, so at that point, that'll alleviate that problem, but now things are gonna freeze. So what they're looking for us to do is to help them alleviate the problem. The manhole lid is a pretty easy thing to do, but then also look at potentially rerouting the main from their service line to a different direction, so it's not underneath the hotel and it's not so shallow and chancing freezing. So, long story short, in your packet, Jesse and I, from Jim's department, and I met with them. We looked at the situation. One option would be we're gonna do some reconstruction on 6th Avenue here in the coming years. We could probably reroute it down, I should say possibly run it down 6th Avenue to the north to the intersection of 4th Street North. We're not sure that we can get the grade to get it there and get it as deep as we'd want it. So that would be one issue. Plus, that's not gonna happen for probably 2 or 3 years, so that's not gonna help them anytime soon. So another option we looked at was potentially running a new main in behind the park, and it would go into, there's a manhole inside the fence of that lift station that we could tap into there and run a gravity line from their business back to the lift station, to the manhole ahead of the lift station. Reasonably inexpensive from the standpoint of restoration. It's all under grass. There's the basketball court back there that would get disturbed, that may or may not want to be replaced. I don't know where the city's at and how much use it gets. But the long and the short of it, that's what the recommendation, at least if the city wants to proceed with doing something different sooner than later, that would be the least expensive option. And the estimate that I included in the packet did include reconstructing that basketball court in its entirety, because if we're gonna cut it in half, it doesn't really make much sense to not just tear the rest of it out and replace the rest of it at the same time. Or if it's not used much, or if you want to relocate it, or if whatever, we can talk about that. But I wanted to try to give a worst-case scenario for the council to consider. So again, that's the long explanation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I guess I'll start. I think we have to do it. I don't think there's any really alternative that we have with respect to this. The recommendation of plan moving forward seems to be solid. We have our city staff who is very astute and very professional and has the skills necessary to get that accomplished, which is a good thing. And so for me, the question that I would have is that as we move forward with this project, I know that Park and Rec Commission, along with Brian Silber from our Park and Rec Director, he's not here right now, are meeting with the Rotary and other constituents over in that area to try to expand the Rotary Park, make it a more amenable and a welcoming environment for there, and they're working on a plan there. So with respect to the basketball court, that may or may not be an option that they will want to, consider. So as we move forward with discussing giving staff hopefully permission to move forward with designing the fix there, that would include any ancillary discussions with Park and Rec and the Commission, and that with whether or not that's really necessary to do and what the potential plans are for leaving that basketball court or changing it in some manner. So thank you for that. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would, if we don't replace the basketball court there, it needs to go somewhere in that general area. I know a lot of the college students who live on campus utilize the outdoor basketball space on their off time. There is no place at the college in general to play ball with hoops in a designated space. So if it doesn't go there, I think I'd like it noted that we need to replace it somewhere in that session, even possibly in Alcott Park or something like that. It is well utilized. When I had a teenager, he was there playing regularly, and it's very open. It's very hard to do anything bad there because it's wide open and a lot of traffic. So I just want to put that input. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Motley.
So I do support this, but I'm just wondering, Sherry, how we might be paying for this.
If I could interject real quick, I think some of it will depend on, the cost will depend on whether you hire it out to a contractor or if Jim's able to get his crews to do it. There was some discussion about maybe them trying to do it. They have the capabilities, it's a matter of having the time. This is probably not something, admittedly, that's at this point probably gonna get done this fall. So it's just, we're running out of time. So I would only interject that I'm not volunteering Jim in any way. I just know that there was some discussion about that. Again, for budgeting purposes, I think using this number would be hopefully it'll come in less than that. But we do have projects coming up next year, and maybe I should let you talk about this, Sherry, but we do have projects that we're gonna be starting next year that we probably could lump it into, if we hired a contractor, could probably roll it into the project cost of some of those, and that might even save some other money as well. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Sherry. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Sherry.
No, thank you, Matt. I think it's important to do, so we'll either budget it or work closely with Matt about rolling it into some of the other projects. Once again, part of the budget thing.
Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question. Did we have any flood damage in this area at all?
Could ask them that question. They didn't
Because
report
would
any.
there be FEMA assistance for maybe some of that, if remediation, if there was any backup or any?
Right, yes,
You know, we just met with FEMA yesterday,
yes, we did.
and that's actually a very good suggestion as I'm thinking this through, because from a mitigation standpoint, Britt, we might want to talk about that more, because this was a result of stuff backing up. So we should talk, at least consider it, whether whether it turns out to be an option or not, but that's a good thought.
And then at that point, if there would be funding or if additional funding would be needed, since it's quote-unquote park or also part of, I'm assuming there's a little bit of that trail segment in here, could we apply for any IRRB funds for that, or the trail tourist dollars? So maybe just make a notation of that. But yeah, if we could get a lot of this funded, I'm all in. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would like to suggest that we entertain a motion to direct staff to present a plan on how they're going to proceed with the replacement and fix with respect to this area along 6th Avenue, and to seek additional outside funding to help pay for this project.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Paulson. Is there support? By Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Matt, very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
One question.
Please, Councilor Freely.
So in the interim, before any of this all is accomplished, what is our responsibility to that building? And will the vented manhole cover be enough to alleviate potential further damages over the course of the winter?
Well, the manhole cover should allow better venting of the steam if it happens to back up into that sewer line. Hopefully I shouldn't say it because I'll probably jinx us, but hopefully between now and next spring, we don't get a ton of rain. Melt in the spring possibly. Any freezing, I know Jim's guys are aware of it. They keep an eye on that stuff and they'll make sure and thaw it out if they start having some issues with freezing. But there's not, it's been an ongoing thing, so they've been aware of it and been keeping it maintained. I think this might be I'd have to ask Kevin, but I'm almost thinking this might be the second time that steam is backed up in their building. So and both times it came as a result of a torrential rain. So wasn't in a spring melt that I'm aware of. I think it was more as a result of a heavy, heavy rain.
Well, venting is not necessarily the remedy to that then?
Hopefully, but it's got to be able to vent enough of the steam so it doesn't back up into the system. So we'll do the best we can to help them out.
All right, thank you.
And, we're looking for the fix before steam is actually eliminated from that area, so that will help a lot too, so thank you for that. So it has been, we voted on it already, correct? Okay, thank you, Councilor Freely. Any other questions? Matt? Thank you, Matt.
Item number 4 is the step 3 grievance from AFSCME regarding out-of-class pay.
So where are we at? Pardon?
They have to present their grievance.
Okay.
It has no confidential information or things that are closed, but.
Thank you. Scott Duranko, representative for AFSCME, Public Works Department, and Amanda Metza, the AFSCME District Representative. Welcome.
Welcome. I guess I want to start out with, I don't understand why this is becoming an issue, because I guess I missed the last meeting. That was my own fault. So if anybody could include or fill me in on why it's at step 3? We did?
Yeah.
But it was denied pay for what reason?
There's nobody to speak on your behalf at the last meeting.
Okay. So the reason why we're doing this pay out of class situation is I've been here for 10 years, Brian's been here for 25 plus years. Anytime that we've done any maintenance to a sanitary sewer system, we've put in for a pay upgrade. This job pertained down by Lakes Gas. It was a new business that started at the end of this road. They wanted to put in a bathroom, and the bathroom, there was no drainage from their sanitary sewer. So they sent down the Vector truck, and they tried to jet the line. They went up from the manhole structure at the very end of the street, which is the shallowest part, which is where this business empties into. So what ended up happening is they jetted up so far, and they ran into where the pipe had collapsed. So what we did is they sent Brian down there with Ken Hendrickson and Buddy Mel, which is the repair crew foreman. Ken was a heavy equipment operator, and so was Brian's a heavy equipment operator. So they sent them 3 down there to do the job. Brian dug this service up, found that the pipe was collapsed, so they proceeded to keep opening up the pipe, and they found within a 20-foot, I believe it was a 20-foot section, that pretty much all the pipe was collapsed. So after that, Brian was gone the next day, so then I got sent in we went down with both of our excavators, which I ran the 180, the John Deere, which is the one that we tear houses down with, and Anders Kolstad went down there with the Cat, and what we did was we started that procedure and we went in both directions. And we opened up from one manhole to the other manhole, we opened it up and found out that the pipe was collapsed pretty much the whole way through. So then we got Tom Sear down there to proceed as a repair crew, because Buddy Mel isn't that familiar yet with what we do when it comes to repairing. And this is where it comes in for the pay upgrade, is that a heavy equipment operator goes down there to dig the hole. We just don't dig the hole. We also dig the hole, but we get out of the excavator, and we cut the pipe, we dig around the pipe by hand. I personally dug up the gas line while they were putting in a structure at the end, because I ended up digging underneath the gas line. So it's not just, we just don't sit in our machine and just sit there and dig. We don't do that. I mean, any job in the city of Virginia, you all know that we just don't do that job. We all pitch in and do everybody's job. So we ended up replacing almost 175 feet of sanitary sewer, which is the mainline sewer. I personally didn't put in for the pay upgrade because I forgot. Underneath our new time card system, I forgot to put it in there underneath notes. That's my bad and some other people. But at one time or another, when we go to these jobs, sometimes we don't have a repair crew foreman, we don't have a repair crew on it at all. It's all heavy equipment operators. So we go down there because that's just the way it is, you know what I mean, depending on staffing levels or whatever. Because we had another job going on where there was repair crew on that job too, which is we split the two foremen up. So that's why we're requesting this. And basically what it also does too is when you put in for this sewer maintenance upgrade or pay out of class is it puts you into the ranking of, it requires 2 years of sewer maintenance to get the license to become now a collections agent. So we were able to, like Jesse did, because of this situation, and plus running the Vector truck, you're able to put in for that. So you don't have a waiting period if you choose to go for this license. So this also becomes a factor. But any time that, and that's the only time that we ever require or ask for a working out of class is when we are actually repairing the main sewer line to go, because we tied in 2 wide ties on that place, which was Lakes Gas, and then that used to be Northwestern Bell's building. We did their wide ties too, which in return, we were cutting pipe as heavy equipment operators. We were down digging around there, we were applying Fernco's, we were installing Fernco's, we were replacing and repairing the sanitary sewer system. And that in return becomes part of this pay out of class. And the total of this was 60 hours that Brian was asking for a total of $16.80. Okay, it's just to put this into perspective. So, if there are any questions anymore?
In this pay period.
Yes, we had in this pay period, we had a repair crew person get it, Dave Lundmark, he got the pay upgrade. Ken Hendrickson was supposed to get it, but then there was I didn't hear it officially, but I had heard it was told to me that HEOs, heavy equipment operators, do not or will not get a pay out of class when it comes to working on sanitary sewers. And like I said, I have an issue with that because I did a emergency one on 4th of July on 12th Avenue. I was down in a hole, I was doing, and again, I didn't put in for the pay, but we just don't dig it. We're down there hand shoveling, we're down there cutting the pipe, we're hauling the pipe, we're doing wide ties. We're doing whatever it does to get this line to flow again, which we did down there off of West Chestnut. And that business owner at the end was super happy, so now we got everything flowing, which Lakes Gas had an issue, they had poor flowage. We fixed everything, because we found in that 175 feet, we found a lot of bad pipe, which is, it's the infrastructure is old down there. But we fixed it now, so.
If I can just offer a couple of other quick summaries. So again, part of the issue here is the unequal treatment of employees. So the city has acknowledged in their response, which was in your packet to the second step and the first step grievance, that this was paid to other employees. They claim that it was a mistake, or the city administrator claimed that it was a mistake, but as Scott has kind of alluded to and addressed, if this is to proceed to a higher level or to arbitration, we believe there's a good 20 years of time cards that indicate this is a standing past practice and not a simple clerical error, right? And so in addition to being a past practice, as Scott has detailed, these employees performed the work that you would typically associate with your sewer crew. And this pay was given to some employees, but not others. And I think a really important note is part of this past practice, just to kind of elaborate on what Scott was saying, is that the pay for this work and billing these hours as such assists the city in claiming these hours as hours worked on sewer for future benefit of employees in the city. One of the issues that you consistently run into is that people don't have enough quote-unquote experience doing sewer work in order to obtain the license. And so being able to claim and note these hours as experienced sewer hours assists you in allowing employees to obtain the license, which I believe is one of the reasons that this has been paid in the past. And so this is a wholesale shift away from a past practice. It is not something that was equally applied even with this within the context of this pay period. And as we've noted, this is a difference in pay between an HEO and sewer maintenance of very little, for 28 cents, and for 60 hours, it amounted to $16.25. And so basically, we continued on with this grievance and continue to believe that there's adequate evidence to support that this was an improper, denial of wage for this employee. And that continuing to pay this for upgrades is important in the future. Sorry, was there question?
Well, please continue.
No, that's all I had to say, just in terms of clarification of the issue. I believe the grievance was within the packet, so you can see that the contract language was cited. The city, I guess one last item that I would say is that the city cited in response an item of contract language that says that the operation of sewer and crew equipment shall be compensated at the same rate of pay as regular sewer crew employees, and the sewer equipment was involved in this job. So I believe you've cited language that proves our point, so.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Scott. Just hang here for a minute. We have a couple questions. I'll refer to the personnel chair in this matter, who brought this forth to the committee of the whole meeting, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for that explanation. I think when it came forward to the Personnel Committee originally, so if you look on page 64 in the packet, it's a letter, I believe it's from Britt, but Jim Rosfit was here, our Public Works Director, during that meeting, and he said that the grievant was not assigned a sewer maintenance position and was just doing other duties as assigned. Isn't that what the discussion was during the meeting? So I think that's why it was denied, because it was stated to us that he was not called out specifically for that job. So could you help me understand so if he wasn't called out, but he ended up doing that work, what you're saying is there's a past practice for that, even though the supervisor isn't saying he was called out for that reason and was doing work as a heavy equipment operator?
This wasn't a call-out. This was just a standard, we come into work and they were sent down there to do the maintenance.
I phrased that wrong.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, he was sent down, he was assigned down there to do the job, and when he went down there, like I said, you're not doing your normal duties. Yes, you are digging it, but when it comes time to actually getting down in a hole and repairing it, because no offense to Buddy Mel being the repair crew foreman at the particular time, he's not extremely knowledgeable on how we do things or how things are done. He's very good at everything else, but I mean, he's good at this too. There's just little things that we do pertaining to how we fix them. Like when I was on 12th Avenue, it was the same thing. He was down there and we were helping him along. We just don't like you said, sit in a machine and do our job. I mean, we get in there and we do everything that pertains to getting that job up and running again is what we do.
Scott, without splitting hairs.
Yep.
So of the time that's spent in the machine versus the time spent digging or doing
Right.
anything manual or by hand, is it worth talking about that or no? Is
I
that,
understand what you're saying, but you're still doing sewer maintenance even if you're doing your job as a heavy equipment operator. You are digging up the main line and fixing it.
so should that change? I mean, just to avoid like a situation like this in the future, should it change when they're assigning duties for the day? Or how does that, Or is this just something that we should be automatically doing because you're saying that basically it's been past practice?
Yeah, I've been paid this for the last 10 years. Brian's been doing it for the last over 25 years. Port is another one that's a 25-year employee that's had the same thing. We've always done it. And like I said, because of the new time card system, I didn't put it down in the notes. On the old time card system, you actually had it on there as sewer maintenance, so we would put our time underneath that particular thing.
So when the supervisor says that he was not assigned sewer maintenance,
Can I ask a clarifying question?
that's what I guess I'm
Right.
not trying to split hairs, but I'm trying to get some
So
clarification.
the issue with that in the operations of a department like this is that Jim Rosford isn't the one assigning work, right? The team leaders are divvying up the work that is necessary to do. And I don't think, again, as we can go through, all of this back and forth on the time cards, the old and the new systems, but it has been a determination based on the type of work that is to be done, right, in the past. So yes, I think the contract language is maybe a little outdated in terms of how that process actually works when you have team leaders involved and, the kind of divvying of work within Public Works. And that's maybe something to look at in future. But really when we're talking about assignment of work, that is based on what is occurring within the department and what their needs are. There are multiple crews working at the same time. So these individuals that we're speaking of happen to be assigned to the crew that was doing this work. And that's the assignment.
Okay, so, basically, we were going, I believe the committee was going based off of the recommendation of the supervisor stating that that wasn't the assigned work for the day, specifically under sewer maintenance. So I think that's where we met, and that's why the initial grievance was.
Because they weren't at the personnel meeting, and city can't speak on their behalf of their
Okay,
grievance, so we didn't have.
so we just
didn't-
listened to the.
Jim's side, and then we didn't get to
the-
hear the absent
okay,
side. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just wanted a little bit of clarification, and then,
And again, like we do hotspots, talking about that hometown focus, that has been a sore spot with us for a long time. We go down there as heavy equipment operators, I don't want to put a title on anybody, but we go down there as employees, we flush that, we do all the hotspots in town, we never put down sewer maintenance for that. If we're going to do a structure where we're going to take the casting, either raise it or lower it on a manhole pertaining to sanitary sewer, we don't put in for that. The only time that we ever do it is if we're actually down maintaining a main line, which Brian was doing. He was assigned to go down there and dig that main up and find out the problem and fix it. But the problem ended up being 175 feet long, so that's what we did. We went down there and we did sewer maintenance by replacing all the main line. And that's the only time that we have ever put down is when we're actually working on the main line.
main line.
That's it, yeah.
thank you for that clarification, and if that's something
And
that,
then, again, I apologize for me and Rhonda for not being at that meeting. I thought it was a Wednesday, when here it was on a Tuesday, and the whole thing was combobulated, and we could have maybe hopefully alleviated this problem, but yeah, that's on me, and I'm sorry for that. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Freely had a question. I'm sure you are done, Counselor. Okay, Counselor Freely, then over to Counselor Motley. Counselor Freely.
So what's the actual total cost the city is incurring for this out-of-class pay request?
$16.80.
This particular one, but going
For
forward.
this particular
would
one.
be- Yeah.
But like I said, you can go back in the time cards and you can show how much it's cost the city, and it's not very much.
It's less than a quarter.
Because thankfully, we don't have to do this a lot. You know what I mean? That this main line, the only time is when we're fixing a main line. That's the only time, which doesn't occur a lot, thankfully,
Better.
again.
But also, so yes, we can talk in terms of the cost. It's less than a quarter an hour for any hour worked where this is being claimed. But again, I can't emphasize enough, I think the benefit in being able to claim those hours as sewer hours worked is there as well. So there is, the cost benefit to, I think needs to be assessed as well.
And
Thank-
so
please
this was
continue.
denied based on the information provided to us from Mr. Rosfit?
We denied it because they were not there at the meeting to discuss it, step 2.
Oh,
So, and again, we apologize for that. That date was not cleared. I was in negotiations out of town. And so that was not one that we were able to attend. But yes, I mean, I would like to have this conversation in a transparent way, and we appreciate the opportunity to do that. I think they're just,
And we do not have to make a decision today. The council does have time to respond. If you guys need some time to mull on it, if you wanted more information from the city, from Mr. Rosfit, we certainly can do that. More information from us, maybe you can ask for more information if you need more time to think about it and consider.
Thank you for the information provided today.
Yeah.
Very, very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. Counselor Motley.
Brett, would it be your recommendation to get some more information from Jim?
We certainly could. That would, we both have information, I'm assuming, that we could provide to the council to help make this decision going forward. I know we do. I'm sure you guys might have something.
to clarify, we haven't done any formal information requests. We are operating on the understanding that has been throughout Public Works, right, and how this has been paid. We know that time cards back up this sort of information, but we don't have information to provide
And I know
formally.
I can get that information and provide it to everybody, so you guys can all see. It is a separate pay code for sewer, so it's easy to run. I can get it quickly. Our internet's not working up here today, so I'm having a hard time getting on my stuff. So I can get it, it just won't be able to get it today, but
Okay.
at this minute, I can get it later today.
Thank you. Thank you, Britt. So does everybody run the sewer equipment? Is everybody getting paid for sewer equipment?
The only time that everybody's getting paid is when you're actually doing the job or you're, say, running the Vector truck. That's the only time that this would be coming into play. Like I said, I've done it, I did 12th Avenue, and again, I didn't write it down. And I did this job. This is the only time all year that we've had this issue with anything. It's far and few between when we actually have to do a mainline fix. And usually it's an emergency because of steam either melting an existing pipe or for some reason a pipe has collapsed. In the 10 years that we've been here, I bet you I haven't been on 6, 7 jobs, thankfully, before the city and its citizens. If we have a backup like we do on these storms where we're actually running pumps and cleaning out lift stations and that, then we're doing sewer maintenance naturally, you know what I mean? But we do that as everybody's on board when we do that. So it doesn't happen very often.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So, my 2 cents. 60 hours, $16.25. Yes, it may set a precedent from one argument, but it may be past practices in another argument. I'd like to see those numbers with respect to that, but I'm only speaking for myself in this regard. I understand the implication of a contract language and negotiating contracts, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that it's $16.25. That's all I'm saying. So, if we need some clarity moving forward with the contract and working to make a change there, to make it more clearly understandable, okay, let's do that. But in the interim, I think that, this one isolated incident, if it's not isolated, then there's other precedents for paying for this payment, even though it was a clerical error. I think the argument has validity. So, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm satisfied with the discussion that we've had today. I think if we were to have had this discussion, I don't think there would have been a question. So, I don't know what everybody else feels like, but I just feel like I understand now, they were out and working actually on the main with their hands out of the machine. So, and if this has been done in the past, I don't see why this would be a problem now. So that's my feeling, and I don't know if we need to take an action on it or if anyone wants to see anything further, but I feel like the explanation that we received today is satisfactory to me. Thank you.
So what we could do is make sure that we get the additional information that's been requested by our city staff, Britt, to put those numbers together for us to show. And then we have those numbers available so we can make a final decision at the council meeting next Tuesday. That acceptable? That makes sense? So do we need a motion to direct you to do that, Britt? Okay, looking for a motion to direct staff to compile the statistical data with respect to out-of-class pay in the past and to present to the city council prior to the next council meeting. So once we have the information, we can formulate a decision how we're going to proceed. So looking for that motion.
So moved.
By Councilor Paulson. Is there support?
Support. for further discussion.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion, Counselor Freely.
You know, what you told me today, Scott, indicates the fact that we have very dedicated and loyal employees in this community that get the job done, and they don't separate duties. That's not my job today. They get in the hole to do what needs to be done. I wasn't aware of that until you explained that. And so I appreciate that explanation, and I appreciate the work that you do collaboratively to get things accomplished. So thank you.
That's the thing with Public Works is everybody works together. If we're walking through the shop and we see a mechanic struggling with something, hey, do you need a hand? We help them. We don't put in for a pay out of class for doing something like that. Everybody works together, and all departments of the city, everybody works together awesomely. So that's the thing that I'm trying to portray too.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Going back to what was said about the definitions, would it be prudent to create something moving forward as well to clarify what assignment means in writing? Listening to who assigns what and where was kind of confusing. Does that need to be part of this, or is that a separate discussion moving forward so that we can, I'll try to prevent this misunderstanding from happening in the future?
I think just from the perspective of it being contract language, we're open to talking about if that needs to be done. This is the first time in many years that the issue, of assignment has come up, right? And the definition of assignment and how that works. And I've been, in 9 years of representing this contract, I don't think there's been a lot of confusion, but if it's something that we feel that we need on an ongoing basis, you can certainly address that within the context of contract language through a letter of understanding or even just a kind of a mutual agreement in writing to some purpose. I think without sort of redefining it, there is a lot of past practice, especially within Public Works, as to how assignment has worked that we can rely on. And I certainly don't want to bore the entire council with that whole history today, but I think there's a lot going on there in the background.
For my purposes, I just want to make sure we're being consistent across all the Ask Me work sites and, I just want to make sure we're being fair because I know each department, the libraries, Ask Me, the Public Works, Parks, Recs are all, I just want to make sure that if it comes up somewhere else, that everybody understands it accordingly. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and this matter has been moved and supported to get the statistical data moving forward, presented to the council so we can make a decision at the council meeting next Tuesday for that hour class pay, 60 hours of work at $60.25 an hour. This is moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next one.
The next item on agenda number 5A, was from the Personnel Committee meeting held on September 26, 2024. It was a motion to direct staff to negotiate an MOU with MAPE and Bill Cole to continue as the interim designated building official.
So moved.
Counselor Paulson moves to approve. Is there support? Support. By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
B, from that same meeting, was approved the unpaid leave of absence request for a single role EMT.
Moved.
A move to approve by Counselor Motley. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Beyondich. They'll just work one less person until the leave of absence. Not going to replace that for a while, are they?
Correct. We're not going to replace it. We're just going to hold the job, and they're expecting, was it November 15th was the expected date?
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
And it is unpaid leave, just to make sure I clarify that too.
Right. Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted, I guess that's what I wanted, that clarification. Do we have did we say a specified date? Or was it just a number of days?
I can't, 100%
I can't
accuracy, it was mid-November, so 15th or 18th in that
So it
ballpark.
won't be like,
Forever.
No,
so we did give it some sort of a time frame.
yeah, there is a sunset on it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. It was moved and supported to approve the request to authorize the external posting of our vacant library aide casual position. This position works less than 20 hours a week and does not get benefits.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Does not get benefits and works less than 20 hours per week.
Is she paid for that, or he or she paid for that?
This is
The
a casual
employees pay
position,
for
yeah.
that?
Yep. It's a $15.54 per hour.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
So moved.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We discussed at the personnel meeting the request for the posting of the accounting clerk 1 position.
From the Personnel Committee, a move to approve the request for posting of the accounting clerk 1 position. Is there support? Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So initially, I feel like I wasn't in favor of hiring. And after listening to our,
Audit?
which hat am I going to refer to? Finance Director, HR. After listening to Sherry, Sherry basically saying that she did budget in the 2025 budget cycle for accounting clerk 1, and Sherry also stated that it was on your recommendation that we would be able to go forward with this accounting clerk 1 position. And just to clarify, is that correct?
Yes.
Sherry, that is correct? Okay, thank you.
So that's already built into our 2025 budget. So I think at that point, that's kind of what changed my direction of thought during that Personnel Committee meeting, that it was budgeted and that Sherry was requesting additional help down in the office. And the only additional question that I have is, will this posting be posted internally first?
It'll be posted per it is an Ask Me position, so it will be posted internally for 1
Posted
week.
internally first. Do you know if we have any current qualified candidates?
Offhand, I do not.
You do not. Okay. And then how long is the job posted internally? If we don't have qualified applicants, then it would go 1 week?
1 week.
1 week internally, and then we go to the outside, as we call it.
Is there an action that we would need to take to authorize that, or is that just an automatic, how it goes? It's automatic. Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Motley.
What's this position roughly budgeted at?
I will have to get you well, hold it. I've got the contract right here.
And then the next question is, who's been,
One is $30.26 an hour.
plus
So
benefits?
that's,
And your next question?
And then the other question is, who's been doing the job since,
the three of us,
as in you?
Megan and Brianna.
And what was it, what was the position roughly budgeted at?
With benefits and that, you're talking a little over 100,000.
Hypothetically, can the two in the office do the job of three?
I'm sorry, what?
Hypothetically, can the two in City Hall do the job of three without you helping? I'm just,
And not without me helping.
okay.
And I don't want to, I mean, this is a lame excuse, but there's also the segregation of duties. But at the same time, it's time. It's time. It's a lot of time.
Could you ever make it a part-time position? Is that possible, or does this have to be full-time?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would say it's probably going to be full-time just because of the timing of some of these duties that have to be done. Your sales tax, your 1099s, payables, data entry on that's a daily thing. That's the data entry and the payables and receivables. And then the interface so that if the other two need to take off for vacation or, God forbid, sick leave or whatever like that, we've got backup. Otherwise, it's screaming crazy then. And I'm not trying to pit department heads or departments against each other, but I'm telling you right now, the library has more staff than I do.
I'm fully aware. Thank you. On your recommendation for this, I will support this, but I also in agreement that I think the library is significantly over budgeted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Motley. This is budgeted for 2025, correct? We're still in the budget process moving forward, still looking at the budget. We have 4 items to discuss there with respect to how that's going to work. This is a budget position for 2025. The audit report says, and I know the argument was made that, well, separation of duties is in every audit. Well, we have to make sure that we have the necessary staff which to do that. And when we have 2 employees working, taking on additional duties and responsibilities, I'm assuming that an additional request for compensation is going to be coming for us. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
At the Personnel Committee meeting, we had a closed meeting with AFSCME, and when we came out of the closed meeting, we discussed that we would update the Public Works Team Leader job description. That is item number 6. We do have Amanda here if she wants to give her input or opinion on the proposed changes. I think I incorporated everything we were looking for, and then it did find under VI 6, I had a sentence that didn't end, it just was stopped right after the word ability, so I needed to add some words there. So I think I got all the changes everybody was asking for. And I'll bring it to you for your final approval again.
Okay. Well, I read through the job description as it was vetted out in personnel. So if this is a recommendation coming from staff and personnel in conjunction with discussions with ASME, we'll turn this over to the personnel chair, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So when we met, this is basically, AFSCME was not at our original meeting when we approved the changes from the prior, I guess, job description. And so we made the changes, but didn't realize inadvertently there was some language in there that was maybe confusing or convoluted in terms of, was it more call-outs or weekend call?
Yeah,
Or
and this one was also the
coverage.
direction, I believe, of directing staff was too,
For the directing of?
yeah.
Yeah, so we just basically, I mean, if this language looks fine, I'm ready to move it forward if it looks fine. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the new job description language.
I'll move by Councilor Paulson to approve the requested job description here for the team leader position in Public Works as recommended by personnel and staff and in conjunction with AFSCME. Is there support?
Support.
Councilor Friedlieb, is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
And what Counselor Paulson was just discussing, also the wastewater collections operator was also that same discussion, and that also discussed the backups and the ability to be, the being on call. I can't get my words out, I'm sorry. And so I think I got all those changes incorporated also, and I presented again to you for your, instead of saying may be scheduled on call, it says will be scheduled on in an on-call duty rotation.
Okay, thank you, Britt. Personnel?
I'll move to approve that as well.
Councilor Paulson, as Chair, Personnel moves to approve. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may add one other item, one request. We did discuss at that meeting that we would get together with AFSCME to negotiate the wage for the building maintenance repair foreman and some of the language that was in there. And we suggested at personnel that we have one council member sit on that team. If we could appoint the one council member to sit on that team with us to negotiate with AFSCME on that job description, that would be great.
Okay, I thank you, and I would just offer a recommendation that somebody from personnel should be, but I open that from the council for further discussion. So Does anyone have any concerns or comments about appointing one counselor from the Personnel Committee to sit in on this negotiations? Seeing none, looking for a motion to appoint, or looking for a volunteer to serve. Counselor Freely volunteers to serve in this negotiating team as part of the Personnel Committee. Is there a motion to appoint?
So moved.
By Counselor Paulson. Is there support? By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Thank you, Counselor Freely. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The final item I have under other items of concern is the recommendation regarding concessionaire bid and request for authorization to negotiate a lease at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. And I will turn this over to Brian Lindsay. Sorry, Brian.
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, my understanding is that there's been a selection, and it appears that it may be different from some current contractors that we've got working. We'll need to work with both contractors to kind of transition those contracts.
To negotiate with both parties on how we want to.
So negotiating with both sides would mean that no disclosure of the questionnaire that was selected. Is that correct? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what? So do we all know what, I don't know who, so, I mean, if you want to negotiate a contract, that's fine. We would have to approve that anyway, right? So at this point in time, whether that concessionaire that we're approving is publicly announced or not, whatever the rule is, or whatever the law is, or whatever the suggestion or the recommendation from staff is.
What my recommendation would be, Mayor, is to authorize the city staff to enter into negotiations with both sides. And then we'll bring back full contracts that will identify the names of the contract. I think that would be the most prudent path forward.
So moved.
Support.
So moved by Counselor Johnson and appointed and approved by, seconded by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
No further items on the agenda.
Yeah, I have two items, if I may, I'd like to bring up, under other items concerned. First of all, Brian is in the room with respect to, I know that there's been a lot of communication back and forth regarding the benches in the park elsewhere. So I apologize for calling you on a regular basis, and Britt, too, for trying to get some clarity on it. I appreciate you giving me some clarity on it. I understand that we may be working on a bench policy to make it a little more clarity for that. So thank you for taking the time to get that accomplished. And number 10, I had some discussion with the golf course people, not in any negotiation fashion, but they asked if I would sit down and make a list of some of the things that they see like to be improved at the golf course, the clubhouse itself, or the grounds themselves. Some of the things Brian and Steph are already working on. One of the questions that I have, and I know there was a suggestion, a potential recommendation by you, Brian, that when we look at replacing the beverage carts, we were considering looking at these little gators moving forward. I did some research on them personally, and I would like to maybe have a little bit of discussion at staff level, and with respect to maybe even if we can't afford them this year, maybe hold those in abeyance and find a cart service that's going to provide more services than that we can provide now to help accomplish additional services to the people who utilize that golf course, and help with the revenue stream, not only for us, but for the golf course restaurant as well. So those are all the comments that I have moving forward, just comments to discuss moving forward. So Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one other item of concern, if I may address that.
Let's go.
Thank you. Just regarding the park signage, I know when Brian was here maybe a couple weeks ago, you had a big sign with you. And I don't know if there was a typo in there. Is that correct? And I was approached yesterday regarding the consistency of signage. And I just want to get, if you can speak in just a sec, but could I just get clarification on what time our parks are open at and until. Do we remember, what did we set?
Brian, good morning.
Morning. They open at sunrise and close at 10 p.m.
So I do want to ask, like, if in the winter, when it's dark at 4:30, should we be doing daylight till dark? And I have a specific reason why I'm asking this, but I guess I'm concerned when it's dark at 4:30, and if the signage says until 10 p.m. and say there's some activity happening, the police then cannot question anyone in the park because they're allowed to be in there.
We actually had a long debate on this for the daylight to dark, because that's what we were going with. However, the Olcott Fountain is or a prime viewing of the Olcott Fountain is after dark, which is why we selected that time,
Okay.
why we went the direction that we did.
Okay. Could we do winter hours versus, like, could we do seasonal hours?
We can do anything. It's our parks. Direct us what you would like to see done, or refer it to the Park and Rec Commission to bring a recommendation back to this council. We're happy to take up those items.
And I'm not trying to get too far in the weeds. I'm just trying to, when Deputy Chief Nicola had, I guess when we were having that conversation quite a while ago, I guess the reason he wanted that was so that they could then approach folks that were in there after hours.
Correct.
And so winter poses a different kind of a challenge. I don't assume a lot of people are probably in the park during winter hours, but I'm not sure of that. And would that cut down? Maybe that is a conversation that should be had. So I guess I don't know if you want me to recommend that. I didn't mean to get into this, but this was mainly for the signage. The conversation I wanted to have today was about signage.
And we have been transitioning all of our park signage to similar signage throughout all the park system for
So the
that
typo was
continuity.
fixed?
Yes.
Okay. And they're big enough to read where cars entering can read them?
That's our goal, yes.
That's the goal, okay. So that's currently being worked on right now, the signage and being
A
consistent?
lot of our trail signage was put up earlier this year that is the same style of the signage as what we just replaced in Olcott Park. So yes, the goal is to have this similar signage throughout the entire park, or through all of our parks. And W.A. Fisher has been wonderful to work with in getting all of these signs reproduced for us.
Awesome. So do you feel like that's a conversation you guys should have, Park and Rec?
We can put it onto our November Park and Rec Commission agenda. We will not be having an October Park and Rec Commission meeting due to the fact that we would not have a quorum there, because it falls right on MEA weekend, and we have a lot of people that had made plans to be leaving town that evening.
Okay, and that's all I had. I don't know, Mayor, if I need a motion for that or if it's just something that Brian will take care of.
I don't think that you need a motion. You would just direct staff to have that discussion, to bring it back to us. In addition to that, maybe it might be helpful, and in anticipation for this discussion, I went over to the police department, take a look at what kind of problems you having in the park here in 2 years. So I'd like to know what the issue is there, if there's damage to the park. So I'd like to get, in conjunction with that discussion with Park and Rec, the statistical data from the police department, which would help move forward that conversation. But to direct staff to take a look at the signage, et cetera, and see if that's feasible. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just add my perspective as with kids under the age of 13, being able to go to the park in the middle of the wintertime and play when it's dark is great. I don't think that limiting access in the early afternoon is appropriate for our public parks. 10 o'clock seems fine to me with the summer hours of whatever after for for the fountain. Playing outside after dark in the wintertime is the only option we have. It's well lit down on the south side park. I would be more in favor of putting some lights in on Alcott Park and having that open in the evenings with the lights dimming down at 10 o'clock or something. So I just want to get that perspective from our families and folks that are active outside in the wintertime. I know they use the park in the evenings for cross-country and snowshoeing, and they do that with headlamps and reflective gear. So I want to caution us closing the park too early in the wintertime. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. So, thank you. One more item of concern I have, just an information. Thank you, Brian. Park and Rec, not Park and Rec, the Charter Commission met. I'll give a report at the next council meeting about what the suggested changes are by the chair of that Charter Commission. So, thank you for that. Anything else to come before the committee of the whole meeting before we adjourn? Councilor Motley.
This would just be on other items of concern, if you're okay with that. It's in regards to the cleaning services and outsourcing. Do we have any updates on what that's looking like? When are we going to talk about that again?
It's a great question. We should talk about that again. We haven't put it on the agenda, but we should have a discussion about it.
So would the recommendation be to put it on the next committee of the whole, Brett? Okay, could we put that on the next meeting? Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Motley. We'll put the cleaning services contract on the next committee of the whole agenda for discussion. Thank you. Any other items of concern to come before the council today? I'll see none. Thank you, everybody, for all your hard work. We'll adjourn at 10:40 a.m. Thank you.